Okay, we started our culvert placement and some water mediation here. This area here is the first low point that, once it starts raining, prevents us from moving the tractor or the cows out to about half of the property. So years ago we had installed a culvert, but this elevation was still pretty low. So a few weeks ago, I can't remember when exactly, my husband brought home a big dump truck from work filled with topsoil, which is actually more like sand, from a elementary school project he's working on. So here, I don't know if you can kind of make out, this patch here is all different soil. It's the sandy soil on top of our clay, and the cows have been walking through it and kicking it around, pressing it down. But you can see, based on the posts, the wood posts, that it hasn't changed the elevation a huge amount compared to where the fence posts are, but it did bring up this low spot, and so that's kind of exciting. If you know our alleyway very well, you'll be able to tell almost right away that this is lower and this is higher. But if you don't know our alleyway at all, then you just have to trust me when I tell you that. As we get closer, I'll show you what I mean. Last Sunday, we had a work day with a friend and his heavy equipment, and we scraped down the ridge here, I suppose, and none of it came into this first low spot. All of it went down into where we installed the new culvert, and then we installed a second culvert in this pasture over here. So as you can see where the fence posts are, you can see how much we took down. It's higher over here than over here. They had their lasers to get the elevation good. And then down here was a big dip, and all the water would run down this hill, and it would just puddle here in this area. And for about 9 months of the year, it was deep, sloggy mud. It was gross. And so our first action was to install the culvert and raise the elevation a bit. It's still a low spot, but it's not nearly as low as before. The culvert will take the water from the secondary pond outflow, bring it under here and into this channel this way, so that instead of pooling here as it has in the past and then causing this whole section here to be a big bog, it's gonna help the water move. And then we're going to take the water around the low points, but not in a straight shot to the outflow creek. Kind of wind it around the way it goes naturally. We're just gonna deepen those channels so that the water has somewhere to go, and the way it already naturally does, without causing the soil to be so soggy. So you can see where we took down here, and you can see the fence posts are higher than the ground. Down this way, we cut the end of that culvert off because the two pieces were significantly longer than what we required. Down this way, you can see the top of this post and the top of this new dirt. They're not going to jump over that. Cows can jump. They don't jump over the moon, and they don't jump over fences unless there's something scary happening behind them. So I'm not too concerned about this. We'll keep this little ditch of sorts along the side, because this part does get quite wet. All the water that runs off of this hill and the hill behind it would come and puddle here, and would puddle across the alleyway, and would puddle over here. I don't know if you can see that very well with the sun shining. So the culvert will come out this way. Everything will come along the low spot here, as it always has, and right over here is where we've installed another culvert so that in the winter months we can get the tractor back there and pull out the trees that have fallen or repair the fence. In the early spring we can mow and attack the blackberries that are back there without making mud and making a big mess. So it'll come down around here and then back, kind of back here behind the hill, the primary outflow, seasonal outflow for the pond, the two will meet up and then they come down and wind around and make their way to another seasonal creek that just sheds the water from all of our hills. So we're just going to follow the natural path of the water. We're just going to deepen the channels that it already takes, and hopefully that will help the water move so we don't have stagnant water for 6 to 9 months of the year. But hopefully it will also help the water continue to absorb into the ground. You can see by the grass type here versus up here that this is wet and this is dry. So I don't mind this being wet, but it is difficult, the degree of wetness that we have. So our next step here is just to get this leveled out and to get the other spots leveled out, and then to bring back the dump truck full of wood chips. There's another project in town where they have logged a lot and chipped the majority of the wood. I guess it wasn't useful for anything else. So we can get several truckloads and cover this exposed soil with wood chips and just help the life that's coming up in this soil here. We want to keep our soil biology healthy. We want to keep it robust. And by having naked dirt, we do the exact opposite. So though it's been exposed for a while, and a lot longer than we had intended, it will be covered with something. It will be covered with the wood chips. And then this high traffic area will become less and less muddy, which will be good for the animals. It'll be good for their feet. It'll be good for them just in their general gait, not being so full of mud. It'll be good for their general health that way. It'll be good in that it'll help keep down the mosquito population, as there won't be puddles here for 6 to 9 months of the year. It'll make it easier for us to access the back in the wet seasons, and it'll keep the soil biology healthy. So this has been a big project on our list for the last couple of years, and we're thrilled to be at this stage of it. And I'm excited to see how our mud mitigation actually plays itself out this winter.